Okay.
Okay, this is the drawing that I've almost finished and one you haven't looked at before. And
Okay.
there are a couple of things going on uh, that I don't understand. I can never get the variable offset to work anymore. So I did this offset. It's not letting me use my mouse now.
Um, right now. No.
No.
Yeah, it seems to be. Now give it a try.
No,
Still,
it's working up here, but well, it was working up there. Now I can see you using it, but it won't let me use it.
all
Well,
right.
it'll
So
let me use
I
it up here, but as soon as I come down on the drawing, it disappears.
all right. So click minimize your application. There you go. And then just click the desktop screen somewhere, just anywhere on the blank desktop.
Okay.
And now go back to the app. Now click
No.
and still nothing. Because I have all right. Don't you save this if you need to and exit Carlson and then just restart it and open this file again?
Okay. Uh, I was talking about variable offsets. I did this using the standard offset command because I couldn't get the variable to work.
Uh-huh.
It check this out. It will not let me extend this line.
To there. Okay. So it
Yeah.
says, doesn't say a thing. All right. Okay. So let me take a look here now. I need to, let's see, go ahead and press escape to end your command. And I'm going to go back now and request. All right, so a couple of things could be going on here. One of which is if that is a polyline, it's at elevation 0. This is a polyline also at elevation 0, so that's fine. Let's see here, that's okay. I wonder if those words in the way have anything to do with it. If we extend.
Yeah, I tried that too. I couldn't get it to work.
All right, so if we do this with a radius of 0, I'm doing a fillet. All right, that worked. Now, one of the things I'm little concerned about that, see that guy right there?
Yes.
That's very possibly having some kind of interference with the extend command. I'm not sure.
Probably doesn't know which line to extend to. There are two lines there.
Yeah, it would have to be. Would have to be, and it's very odd that it would be, but it would have to be exactly where that hits. Now, if I take that on past on that extension. Oh, I see. Okay. This looks like there are maybe two vertices right here.
Really?
Yeah, let's see. It should only have two, but when I extended it, see, there's the second one. Yeah, there's the third one. See? So there's two vertices stacked up on top of each other right there. Or actually, look at the numbers right over here on the properties. And now I'm on vertex 1. You see them up on the back.
Yeah.
Go to vertex 2 and look at the coordinates now. It's 554.260, 467.933. If I go to the third one, it's very close. It's not exact, but it's very close to being right on top of the second one. And so that's what's going on is you see,
Yeah.
so that one needs to go away. And so now you should be able to extend that. You should be able to there we go. And then you could trim that. Now, all right, so we've solved that mystery there,
Wait a
but
minute, it disappeared.
no, I undid it.
Oh, okay.
I said we solved that mystery, but let's go back and figure out this variable offset business because you're trying to offset how much on the sides?
15 on the sides, 40 in the front, and 50 in the rear.
So 40, 15, no, I'm sorry, 50, 15, and 40.
Yes.
That, okay, now, this is a closed polyline. I'm just going to do a copy here out to here, and let's see what we can find out from there. Now, show me what you did when you did the variable offset. Why, let's figure out this is not working.
Okay, I'm going to lines.
Yeah. All right, so now.
Okay, now you see I've got one point there, so I'm not sure, is this the line that I'm offsetting?
Yeah, see, but it should be pointing to a segment. Now, you see the fact that you see that little arrow is so jammed up in there. I'm not sure it's finding a segment, although I'm guessing this has got a similar and I'm going to stop your command. I'm guessing this has got a similar vertex issue. See there?
Huh.
So even though this is a closed polyline, see if I go to vertex 1, there's its first one. I go to the second one, and it's probably going around the figure now. 5, 6.
Hey, what do I do that causes that?
Well, I'm not totally sure what causes it. I mean, it depends on how you create these figures. Like, did you draw that? There's 0.211, 210.
I drew the lines and then I created the points.
But you drew the lines. Did you draw the lines individually, or did you draw, say, starting at this point and you went around the figure as a polyline and started drawing it as a closed polyline, or?
Yeah, I did that, and then I had to change the area because I was just guessing about the area.
Okay. So it seems that, there's a little bit of leftovers on here. I don't know if you've trimmed or if this line got swung and it came off of that end point or exactly how that happened. I'm not I just don't know. and there's a number of things that it can do. It looks like that vertex point right here in the middle, that's a valid vertex because that's the bend in your line right there. So that's, what is that, point number 16.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So now we need to figure out which point down here is legitimate, the one at the end of this upper line coming from the northeast, or the end of the line coming from the west, or somewhere in between. You know, does this need to meet at a point?
Right.
And that's my question to you. I don't know your answer to that.
What was my question? What was the question again?
Where does this point need to be? See, I can pick this, I can pick if I pick this point here, the far point, then that's going to swing the end of this point coming down from the northeast over to its end point.
Okay, what's the area in that closed figure? Let's
Well, let's find out. The first thing I want to do is make a clean closed figure in there, and I'm going to do that with the B poly command. So if I do a boundary polyline and just I don't care where it goes on, I'm going to pick this point. There it is. And I'm going to now move my last item. I'll go over here. Now this one is exactly 4 vertices, or 5 with that kink vertices, because it just, you see, as it steps around, it's going
right.
around. So because all it does is it works like the hatch command. Now that particular area is
Wait a minute, how do you click on those vertices again?
If you select a polyline,
Yes.
or line, anything actually, and then click over here in the
Okay.
vertex field,
I see it. Okay.
then you can do that. Okay. Now, so just by properties, you can see that's 87,124,202 is the square footage, or you can see your area by closed polyline. And we can check this a number of ways. If we check this one, let's see, wow, that's down low. All right, so there's your 87,124. We've got the round off.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
2.0001 acres, or exactly 87,124. Maybe it has, I don't know, some decimals, but it's rounded off.
Yeah.
Acreage is rounded off to the 4th. So that's the correct one.
Yeah.
Now, if, however, we did, I'm going to try another couple of verifications. If I do it by lines and arcs, it should be the same. And it is. And let's try by interior point. And that is as well. So that's all confirmed nicely on that one. And that tells us that we're going to use that inside point. Now, if I just wanted to check something here, if I move this like so, and I'm going to, and I mean, I copied it, I didn't move it. And I'm going to explode it, because if I go to try to get the vertices of the individual point, it'll grab the one from the other line. But now if I move that out like that, and then also do something here, what is, all right, so I've got that little piece. See, it was doubled up in there. And now that piece goes all the way out to there. And this piece. So I see what had happened now is back over here. You had that little bitty short piece as a separate segment that got embedded into the overall closed polyline. How, I don't know, but that's what it did. Now, if I do this now, yeah, see, that becomes that. So that's the one you don't want. You do want this other one, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so I was checking to see how many, I was checking to see if it would actually show up in the rounding or not, was what I was doing. So if I take this, I'm going to explode that into its constituent pieces. And now here you see, if I select that, you see how it finds that little segment?
Yeah.
And you can see it's 0.28 feet long. It's even so long. I mean, it's even so small that the video resolution won't really show it. So I'm going to get rid of that one. And I'm also going to take this and bring that one back to that. Did that what I want to do or not? No. I think there's another little something in here too. No, let's see how many vertices. That's a line. Okay, so it's just got the two. So that is 795017. All right, so that's good still. All right, so let's fix this. If we do a join nearest, now I haven't touched yours yet. I'm just going to make sure this will work here before we do it. So if we do a join nearest and we set the gap to something sufficiently small, and we're going to change the type to fill it with radius 0 so that it will basically do the trim and extend down to here. Oh, see, it still missed that. All right. Let's see if I try that. That might have been, if you did it that way, that might have been what caused that. Because what it did do was,
Can't you just delete that line, bottom line, and reconnect it?
yeah. All right. So, but what I was checking, Mike, is that there is, I was checking, see that near join command.
Yeah.
What happened there is that it went out here to the end of this, and instead of going from the end back in here to trim this off, it went out here and added another segment back. And it does that through, so, whatever the algorithm is it goes to this endpoint, and this gap, this distance is shorter than that gap. And so it decided that our rules were going to allow it to go from this point back to this point along that same bearing and find a point. So what it did is it went from out here at this endpoint way over here to the left, came all the way here to the right, and then went all the way back here. And so that's what added that extra piece in there, if indeed that went through that process. So the solution there then is to do that, although Why is it finding? Oh, I know why it's doing that. That's because you've got perpendicular snapping on. So if you keep that on all the time, I had assumed that I was getting the end point here. When I got there, it went to a perpendicular snap and it jumped up that little difference. That also could be what might have happened if you set this point coming down, thinking you were getting the end point, and it snapped it perpendicularly and it had that extra little piece. So that might well be what's happened. And so now, if we join near, that should all be fine. And if we look at our area, again, we're still in good shape. All right. So we got that resolved. Let's now fix this. So my suggestion, Michael, would be if if you want to run your snaps, if you need to snap perpendicular to a lot of stuff, and when you're doing some work, turn it on and let it go. Okay, like you normally do. But when you are through doing whatever it is that you're snapping perpendicular to, I would turn that off, because that particular snap took precedent over the finding the endpoint, and I wasn't paying close enough attention to whatever it was snapping to, and that created that little extra piece that went on with that. Okay,
Well,
so
that's interesting, because when I do uh, uh, use the perpendicular snap, I don't go down to the universal settings. I go up to the top and just click on the perpendicular. Yeah, right there.
yeah, but
And
if you should happen to accidentally double click it up there, that sets it universally.
okay, that's what's happening.
Ah, okay. So yeah, so okay. Yeah, so no, and and it's just so yeah, just be careful. Just click it once up here to set it just once. But if
Right.
you double click it, it sets it permanently, just as if you did it down there. So okay.
Okay.
All right. So now one of the things that I do instead, I don't use this toolbar up here at all in my work. I show it in my interface because when I teach people, because a lot of people like to see that and they're comfortable with it. I always hold the shift key and right click the mouse, and that pops this up, and I choose what I need on the fly, and then it goes away.
Okay.
But you know, but some people like to work with their drawing inspector on, and that interferes with that because you've got that right click functionality that's getting in the way of that. So anyway, it's just something to keep in mind. Now I'm going to isolate this. Actually, I'm going to first, I'll put all these layers back on. Now I'm going to isolate that one item, which is this show hide by selection. And I'm going to get just that boundary. And that way we can work on it by itself. And let's explode this guy. And let's take that guy away. And then we're going to come down here and put him to that endpoint. Then we'll zoom back out and do a join nearest. Put this back to 0.1. Fill it with radius 0. So that's now back in shape. I will now show all. And now this guy, you should be able to, and that's on setback limit. All right, so we'll make sure we go to that. Now run your variable offset. And I'll show you what to look for. That's how I found this problem, was when this ran, I saw what was happening. So if you choose by lines, like you said, set that. Now switch side. Okay, and now do you see the arrow?
Yeah, so it's pointing at the mistake I made though is that I don't have the whole figure, but that would be the front.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So zoom out a little bit. You'll lose the glyph, but I want to see the whole property, there you go. Now you can zoom that into where you see everything. And now go ahead and put that one in at whatever distance that's supposed to be. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. And then now watch when you hit enter.
I did hit enter.
All right, where's the glyphs?
Okay, so you have to move. It doesn't show up until I move my mouse.
Well, if you're down here and hit enter, oops, there. Let's escape that. Try it again. Now we'll start with being able to see it all. Okay, now you can see the arrows, they're pointing to both endpoints. And so,
that would be
there you
40.
go. Yeah. And
Now see, the arrow doesn't move until I move my mouse. Well, it's not moving at all now.
well, no, they moved. They're down on that 131.37. You see
Oh, well, they're still at the top too.
ah, okay. All right. So what is that? Now that one's 15, right? But
Yeah.
see, that's where you got those two. And what happened before is it was pointing to that wee little bitty segment down there. So if you give that one 15, and now there you go. You see, yeah, it still keeps that very first one showing. Huh. All right. And now 15 again for that. And that's hit enter to end. And then change the layer that's on. And that is now working. But yeah, so that's what I would say to keep an eye out for, is to watch those little glyphs and to make sure that make sure that it's grabbing endpoints. Now I would also, since that is corner to corner, I would select that line, and you see that the northeast corner, how it doesn't, there's a gap at the corner.
Yeah.
If you do that and go to your properties, the very bottom one, the line type generation, if you turn that off, that will start it over. Let's see how that looks. Now escape that, and you can see you've got the full corners.
Okay.
All right. And that same thing with that dashed green in the middle. You can see the corners are gapped on that one as well. The ones around 212 through 215 in that area.
Oh, look, those arrows are still there. Now they're gone.
Yeah, they're little transient graphics, and I don't know. That has to do with, in fact, it might even be different on different computers based on graphic cards, because they're using the graphic hardware to generate those. So
You're talking about this one?
yeah, and that might be, and sometimes when you do this, you might get, points in the middle that make it look goofy too. And sometimes you might need to change the scale to get the stuff, but you can address those individually. But look also back at the
That one?
the property corners over there. Now they may, I don't know if that's one closed figure, maybe those lines fall short of meeting. No, that looks like it's, yeah. So that's a similar type thing.
Well, there the generator is turned off.
That one is turned off. Well, why does it?
But see, I don't really care about that because when you look at
That's
my
fine.
final
Yeah,
plat, I'm not really, well, I guess I am showing that
yeah.
barely,
Well,
but it's not the focus of,
and that's fine, Mike. And that's something you can just let go. But if that's something that I'm just letting you, I'm trying to give you some thought processes that if you look at something like that and you wanted to fix it, you would know some tools to go do it with. So,
okay, now here's an issue. This line, aside from being a property line, is also a limit of a conservation easement. The rest of this property is in a conservation easement.
okay.
So what I want to do is make that line parallel to this one and have leaders and arrows coming in from both sides pointing to that line.
Okay.
And that's in paper space.
Ah, okay.
Um, and this is in paper. So
Okay.
the way I have trouble getting the double arrow leader to work, and I don't know why, but I can never get it to work properly.
The double leader, like when you
Well, when
indicate,
you go to draw leader, you have a multi-leader with text.
oh, okay. Yep. All right. So, yeah. All right. So there's a couple things we can do here. The easiest thing, if you want to keep that in paper space, which is fine. And again, you gotta, yeah, there's no hard and fast rule on that, Mike. And that's, it's always, sometimes it's a thing of, is it something that needs to hook onto the geometry so that if I move where I'm looking at this in paper space, I want it to move with me, or not, and so there's reasons why yes and no you want to do it. I also see one thing that we need to fix is that the property boundary, since it was the last thing we worked on, it's now sitting on top. So if you double click inside your viewport, select that boundary and send it to the back so it goes behind those points. There you go. All right, now come back, or let's do.
Well, while we're on that subject, let me ask you this.
Okay.
I cannot get this point to go to the back.
That should come to the front though, right?
Right, I mean the front.
Okay. All right, well, I would suggest that it is at the front, but I would also suggest that for whatever reason, it's not using the point with the wipeout, it's using just the circle.
Oh,
So if you double click it, just change the symbol. Yeah, see the
oh,
SPT4? Yeah.
oh, okay.
So yeah, it was doing exactly what now. Yeah, there you go. It was doing exactly what we were telling it to do.
Okay, that was an easy fix.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, let me see now. Oh, one of the fundamental questions, when I first started this drawing, I ended up doing the whole thing at 1 inch to 80 feet, but I thought about doing the lot at one scale and then showing the access easement at a different scale on a different page.
Uh-huh.
Could I have done that by clicking copy and creating another page?
Sure. Yeah. And you can do it that way. And then you just change the viewport as to what you're looking at. And
Right. And then do a freeze by layer or freeze by pick.
exactly right. Now I'm going to set your hatch to the back so that, and I'm going to bring this to the, no, I'll leave that to the back. You've got, is this, I'm going to send that also to the back. What I was noticing was that, you see that gray line right there? Is sitting above the black. Maybe it's that one. There we go. Should that go up to that middle point, or should it come back, or do we care?
Don't really need it there. I could actually move it back to that point. I don't remember why I ended up drawing that.
So it could go back to the end point
Yeah.
like that. Okay. And then I'm going to also send it to the back. There we go. Yeah, I was seeing some little, and you see that how the white sticks over the black.
Yeah.
So that's and in a spot like that, that wouldn't matter. But if you see it come down here, when you print, it starts to you'll start to lose some of that definition. And I'll put the hatch now, because I put these lines to the back, they went under the hatch. And so now I put the hatch, after I was through with all of that mess, I put the hatch now all the way in the back. So now everything's layered pretty well. Okay, now. So
Another
yeah.
issue that I had that I wanted to, and I don't know if I can get it to do it again, but well, you see how the size of this is so different than the size of that.
Yeah.
I tried to change that by using the paintbrush.
Yeah, that won't do it. Yeah.
And it did something really weird.
Well, it'll change the layer and the color and things like that, but it won't.
Well, it also it erased the whole drawing. The whole drawing disappeared.
Oh, well, then don't do that.
And it did I did an undo and it came back, but it was
Well,
pretty scary. Let me go ahead and save what we've done so
yeah,
far.
yeah.
So I don't know if I even want to show you that. It's so scary. But
All right, let me tell.
there.
Oh, yeah, that has something to do with the graphics of the fill of the symbol.
So what's the best? I mean, does it matter?
So, well, yeah, if you want to set the size, let me show you a better command that'll handle all that. Is like right now, you typically have your sizes are set to looks like, oh, sorry, wrong setting. Is you typically have your points are set to 0.08. Okay, as long as the text, so that's fine. And you're at 80 scale. So that's what they should be. Now that means that this scale, if I select that one block and I choose that block reference, see, it has a scale of 8 because of that 1 inch equals 80 feet kind of reference to the plot scale. Now, just in terms of CAD work, see, I could set that, select that particular block, and I could go over here and change its scale from, now here it's at 0.08 because it is annotative. So that one's actually correct. But this one is probably not annotative. See, it's not annotative and its scale is 8. And I can't change it to be annotated because it's not the same block definition. So, all right, so let's see. Instead of, yeah, let me tell you, so that's SPT5 Anno, because that came from this SPT5, this one, but that was created when, and I don't know if we change this or not, it would see there's a setting in here that says use annotative scale, which means we want it to make our, oh, I'm sorry, it's not, well, that is one place you have to have it, but it's on our points default, where we say use annotative points.
Yes.
We do that, it makes those annotative blocks, and we can change them by changing the way we want them to appear at the annotative scaling. If we don't have that checked, like when this one was made, that was probably not checked. And so it wasn't annotative. This one is. All right. So you, and we can't, I can't select this and just simply choose that block and decide to make it annotative. You see, that won't let me change that. No.
Yeah.
I have to actually switch it to a different block that is the annotative block, and that only gets triggered when it gets created. All right, so with all of that, it's something I can't change without recreating those individually, but we still have a way around all that, is with this points, resize, point attributes.
Yeah.
I think is what I want to do here. Let's see, there is another. I think it's just supposed to be this resize. So if I resize by scale, I'm not sure if I want to do scale, I want to do absolute, I think. The point attribute and symbol size, that's 6.4. Well, it's going to be 8. I don't want to. Let's do the symbols by the screen. See, I don't. Let me try this and see. Yeah, that looks like that did it. But I don't want to have to do it by having to know the ground distance. There's another command. I thought that allowed you to do it to say 0.08, for instance. Let me see, point numbers, label size.
Well, the odd thing is I never touched those settings. So I don't know how I could have created that point with the settings off.
Huh. All right, so this 0.19, for instance, that is this SPT4W. So if it's when that point's default, or if I draw locate point, is that switch also in here? Diffusion dialog, locate, numbers automatic, symbol size. Huh. Yeah, doesn't say it. It's definitely done when it's set in this point defaults right there. That's what changes that. Because you see this point is SPT4W. That means it's using that wipeout. Okay, if I choose this set, it would be this one right here. Okay,
Yeah.
and if I select that and look over here in its properties, I can see that no, indeed, it's not annotative. This one, which was a different symbol, but if I look at its block reference, I see, yes, indeed, it is annotative, and it has an annotation scale. So if I were to change the scale down here with our drawing setup, you're gonna let's make that instead of 80 scale, let's make that 40 for the minute. And you see how that stays the desired plotted size, but these then blow up because they're now bigger. Okay.
Right.
So let's put this back now to 80. Okay, so that's sort of the behavior that you really would like to have most of the time anyway, which is why that exists over here in the points faults. Now, why or where and when and how that got changed or unchanged, I don't know.
Well, let me tell you how I created those points to begin with. When I originally brought the points into the drawing,
Uh-huh.
I used the draw locate point,
Okay.
and I went in and set this to that,
Yep.
and
Change
then
change your starting point number there from 216. Change it to like 999 and we'll erase it later. And just pick a point out in space. Just say screen pick there. There you go. And just give it a test or whatever. All right. So there it is. And there's that symbol. Now hit enter to finish the command. Now select it and let's look at its capabilities. Go to the property, pull
now
down.
that's interesting that it's on 2 layers.
Well, it's not that it's on 2 layers. It's that you've got two different things going on there. You've got a group of things. You've got actually three things. You've got a CAD point, a symbol, and the attributes. Okay.
Okay, well, these looked like that when I did it, and what I did to them is that I clicked on them like that,
Uh-huh.
and I
Change.
went in and I put them on the
Yeah.
boundary layer.
And that's fine. And
And
yours, yeah, and that'll do that same thing. Okay. But if I select this, now the whole thing went on that layer, whereas before you had one thing for this and one thing for that, so they were on separate layers. In fact, if you look at the settings for draw locate, let's see, we were telling it here's the layer name. Do we say anything about the attributes here? I don't see. That must be under point defaults, or we say layer for points, separate layers. See right here, it says put both on separate layers. If we say none, then it's going to put everything on that layer. And that's probably the way you're used to seeing it being done.
yeah, it is.
So we'll change that behavior back. And that should work. Now, if I go back to this one and now choose just that block reference there, you see now it is annotative because that switch was on when I said use that. So if I were to change this now back to, we'll go to 40 again. You see how it's now that one and that one. You saw how they appeared to shrink, but they were actually staying the same, and everything else got bigger in the view, and it just didn't shift the view. So putting this now back to 80, you see now they're back to being that same size. All right, so if I erased my points by number 9, yes, and yes, and yes. All right. So yeah, if we resize the point. No, see, that's not case. That's not where I wanted. It's not what I wanted to change.
Well, that's okay, but how do I keep when I bring points into a drawing when I'm starting out? how do I keep that from happening? How do I make sure that they're annotated?
Yeah, best practice is go back to your points menu and look at your point defaults. Okay. Choose that. Make sure that this use annotative is checked on. And on your separate layers, make sure you say none, as long as you want the attributes and the point symbols to be on the same layer. And that's fine. Then you can set, whatever layer you want as your normal layer, but you can also change that when you go to build your point to draw locate. This is just the defaults.
Okay.
So set that there. Now I know where this is. It's not on the points menu. It's on the settings menu where it says rescale the drawing. See, and look at the bottom of the screen. It says globally resizes selected text, symbol, and block entities within the drawing. So if I say rescale the drawing and it says selected, so it says, so what's my old horizontal scale? Well, no, there's the difference. If you knew what the old one was, this would help you. Let's say if we knew it was 40, and yet we were changing it to 60. So and then you put a new one in, say to 60. And now I want you to select any text, symbols, dimensions, and blocks that you want to scale. So you would go through and select those, and then it would apply that differential. You would basically scale them up or down to however to fix that difference in scale. So that's the one I was looking for, but that doesn't do us any good if we don't know what the scale came from and to. We just know we wanted to match one to the other.
Right.
So yeah, we'll probably have to do that either by redrawing the points with those attributes set correctly, or select the points. And then, when you are doing that, you have to go into this pull down and choose the block reference group and come down here and change this scale value. X and Y, the Z value doesn't matter, but you might as well make it the same. So in this case, at 1 inch equals 80 feet, if we're sitting as 8, that means that's going to be 1/10 of an inch. Okay, but you want this one, I think, is 1/8 of an inch. And so to make these 1/8 of an inch instead of 8, that needs to be 6.4, right? 8 times 0.8.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't matter the Z scale. So now, there you go. Now then you can also do things like if you select one, select similar. And then let's make sure we've got all the points in the drawing that we want to change here. There we go. Some of which, if I just get the block references, I don't want to get these. I don't want to necessarily get those other points, but I do want the ones that are actually on the corner. Let's see what he's looking at. That one is annotative, so that one's okay. Were there any of these others? Let's see about this one. Looks like that might be the only other one. Really? Why? Four. Are there 2 points in there? No, we're not. .4. That's not right. Let's undo that. See, why does that come up as a block reference to and a group, but this one doesn't? I don't understand. Let me see if that used a different, that one already is annotated. That's why. That's why I shouldn't have changed that to 6.4, because it went to try to make it 6.5 inches tall when it plots. So that made sense that way. All right. So that one now then says, yes, it's actually annotative. All right. And that one should be 0.08. So resize the point attributes absolute. Make it 6 point. Whoops, let me. Resize. Point attributes. If I do scale, it's going to ask me an old, yeah, it's a multiplier. I don't like that. So if I resize the point attributes by absolute, 6.4, that's correct. Might as well make them the same from the screen. Oops. This guy right there. Okay, now when I look at this, it should no longer say varies, which of course it does. All right. All right, so that should be wise. Now, why these things change, like these point defaults, whether this is checked on, whether this is on both or none, they can be done in places where, maybe I've shown you that at some point and we forgot to set it back, or sometimes a command will throw a switch in the internal settings of the software, and that will have an effect, and it will, with no intent of changing that, but there's some number in memory that it reads, and when it goes to reset those things, some combination of bits that are set in some particular pattern can have the effect of switching those. And it's not, it's not often. It doesn't happen. It usually happens if a command gets interrupted. And
Right.
it's always wise to go back and check some switches and settings. So now I noticed also when we put that easement for your 50-foot access easement, we put it back into the background.
Yeah.
So there was a dimension there and that shows its width. So
Yes.
I think it was hiding behind it earlier. So that's now back out in front where it's supposed to be. So now, so you need to work on this double-headed thing here. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things that we can do. Is we can draw, so if you want to line this thing up to match the particular orientation, is we have to either well, because you're in paper space and you're going to match stuff that's in rotated model space, we're going to have to sort of give it some things to go by, as it were.
What's the model space that I'm rotating to?
Or didn't you want it to be parallel to that line?
Can I give it this bearing and this bearing when I'm rotating, or when I'm, yeah, when I'm rotating it? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, is the drawing that's in there straight up? It's north straight up, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, okay, yeah, so we could do it that way as well. But what happens is when you're doing leaders, you see, if you turn your when it's snapping to a particular something and then turned its head, it's almost like if you try to, if you were to do a draw a leader, or even that double-headed leader where there's multi-leader rather with text. Now, if I'm going to do one like so, let's see, use the properties, hide, landing style. I want a little horizontal tick. Where's my text sizes, etc. Text positions automatic, justifications automatic, and the text rotates right here. You either go horizontal, you can pick an angle, or you can set it at a fixed angle. So you can make them always be at 45 degrees. Right now, by default, they're horizontal, so they're going to try to go so you're reading them straight across the paper. So if I now change that to pick an angle, okay, and then I'm going to say text input to prompt, or I can use a preset text. Let's just use a preset. Well, no, let's just have it prompt as well. Yeah. And it says options, size, pick the arrow location. So if I pick nearest, I pick here. And I'm going to go up to say here. And now you see what it did is it shot that angle over here horizontally.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's getting ready to make a horizontal notation. But I'm going to give it the text rotation, and I'm going to just hover down here and say pick, and hover up here and say pick. And so that's now set. That I thought, let's try this and see. Test label. And of course that wouldn't work. All right, so if we
Well, can I brute force it by just turning that sentence limits of conservation easement parallel to that line, and then brute force the leader arrows to the
yeah,
end of each end of the sentence?
yeah, I mean, you could do, what you have to do is select them both, and then you have to rotate. Okay. And then you're going to rotate it from, and so you want to rotate, say, from, you want to match that parallel. So you're going to rotate from here. And now I'm going to say B for base angle. So I'm going to show it the base angle was here to here. That matches the text. And now I need to match that. And here's where it gets tricky, because I need to say snap parallel. And so I'm going to now, let's see if it finds it. It did find it. And now when I go here, I'll see that little dashed line should, of course it won't. All right, so that's what I'm saying. I'm going to have, if I draw, I have to draw this helper geometry all the time. So if I draw that up to there, and I'm going to take that and move it out to here. All right, so I'm going to actually even move it from its endpoint there to right there. And now I'm going to rotate this from here. Base angle is here to here, match to that. All right. Really? Oh, I see. You've been playing with this. It was no longer set up to the way it was. All right, so if I just move this here and now rotate that from here, base angle, here to, and there's nothing to line up with here because it's been just, it's a piece of text. And now I'll put that back. All right. Let's just rotate. Do a by. There's nothing to see. There's nothing on that text that I can snap to other than its insertion point.
Right.
Now I can, though, if I look at this and it's a polyline, now here's what the one thing I don't like about the polylines is it won't show you in its properties its actual angle. But if you explode that into being a line, and it's now a line, it now has a angle down here. It's north 12, 53, 48. And even though I can't change it, I can't select it, I can copy it. And then I can say, let's say I've, this is at some kind of, all right, so if this was at some kind of arbitrary, angle that didn't match it, I can select it, and now it has a rotation here that I can then paste, and it will, once I hit enter, you see it lines it up exactly on that angle.
Right.
But that's why I had to copy all that stuff and move it around, because if I try to do it, and it'll snap back and forth between paper space. And so now I've got this, and I can now, because it's set at the right angle, I can now just position this wherever it needs to go, like so. And then I can take this and move this up to just snap it to the nearest or to the intersection of, I don't know if it'll find the intersection there because it's one thing in paper space and another in model space. So if I go to nearest, it will find the nearest in there. All right, so there's that one. And that's set up like so. Now because it was drawn as a multi-leader, what you can do at that point is
Well,
under.
I didn't draw it as a multi-leader
Oh, okay.
because I could never figure out how to use a multi-leader. I just did a single leader.
Oh, I got you. Okay. So that way you can, like if you had drawn that, there's one where you can add a leader to a multi-leader entity.
Yeah.
So, and you see this leader and multi-leader up here. These are just the CAD versions of this guy down here, these two guys here.
Okay.
So if I do a multi-leader the CAD way, a leader type, leader landing, content type, max points, first angle, second angle. All right, we'll leave those alone for now. So if I specify where it's going to go, we're going to go from here. The next point will be here. We'll call that one again test label. And it does, again, by default, it sets it up to be horizontal. So if I want that to match like that one, then what I would need to do is I need to pull it enough to this side to where it switches You see how it switched the side of the arrow? It comes out the left of the word now instead of the right.
Right.
So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to take just the whole thing and just move it up in here. Somewhere kind of, this is just, it's nuts. And then if I rotate that from, say, here, base angle is here to here, and I want that to be 0, or rather north. Okay, no, that put that straight. That was not what I was wanting to do anyway. Right, so if I said, let's see, if I rotate, see, and that's the nice thing about that being a multi-leader is that it's a single entity. All right, now what I'm trying to do is snap this thing parallel. So if I say base angle is from here to here, and if I snap parallel, all right, so it's found it. And when I get within the range of it, let me get off of these other things that I'm going to snap to. See, it should show me one of those little ghosted lines, and it's not, I don't see it.
There it was.
Did you see it?
A little more. A little more.
It's like we're
There.
but that's not,
That's not what you're looking for.
no, you see the ghosted line is coming off the projected endpoint from way down below.
Yeah.
So that's not the one. The one I'm looking for is, and I think what I have to do is have this in. I think it has to be in paper space with it on the parallel snap. I'm not sure. And I go from there to base angle of from here to here. Now snap parallel. And once it reads parallel, then when I go to move it, there, see how that ghosted line shows up parallel?
Yeah.
So that's how that works. And then I would move the whole thing down to wherever I wanted it to be, say like right in here. And then I could just pick it one more time and I can pull this up. And now this I can move around at any arbitrary angle that I want, and even put it, something goofy. So, but that way it keeps it, so you can see that this is not parallel to this, but this is parallel to this.
Right.
Okay. And so now the nice thing about that, I'm going to erase this before we forget it. So the nice thing about that multi-leader object is that you can add to that multi-leader, and they don't have that CAD command out here, but it's M leader add, I think, line collect, M leader edit. Yeah.
So I can go in and change the text on that where it says test label, the limits of conservation easement, and that would, and change the size of it, and that would.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that works just like that as being a piece of text. But it's a yeah, it's like an add. Multi-leader. I can't remember the name, but it's add leader. There he goes. To add leader lines to multi-leader, one of the following. Add leader lines. Choose to function on the ribbon. Home. Add leader. The multi-leader. Type AIM leader. Add. That makes sense. AIM leader. Add. All right. So now you simply select the multi-leader, and if I can get it, there it is. So now I'm going to put one down, say at this endpoint, and then I'm going to put one, oh, say down here at this endpoint, and then maybe one down here. And whenever you're done, see, so now it's got all of these individual things, but it's still one object, and you can you see, take that text, if you get the text grip, you see if you move that around, see how they all stick?
Yeah.
And they point to wherever you pointed to them. So it's a really nice and versatile thing, but you don't want to have to go around changing, rotating this and the other. You want it to be parallel to that, or it's going to be, perpendicular to the page. Now, there's a way to make that happen when you go to create this, even in your temporary paper space, is if you do a twist screen so that, or, well, I don't want to do a twist screen because that's going to visually twist your screen, but we're going to create right now a separate little coordinate system that's going to be now parallel to that line. Okay, it works like a twist screen. If you see this UCS icon over here, you see the blue X and Y, and you see that little square, that means we're in the world coordinate system in relationship to the page, or in relationship to anything. In the world coordinate system, north is straight up, east is to the right. So what we want to do, though, is we want to tell it temporarily, and just for the duration of whatever we're working on, that this line is east, so that when we draw our leaders, they're going to be horizontal to that line. Okay, so they're going to be just like you saw us do before. And so then we come back out of that, and we won't have to change that rotation. So we're going to say UCS, that's user coordinate system. Okay. Now I'm not sure. I'm checking if we can do it through picking into this model space or not. We'll see. I think we can, because we're not rotated relative to it. So I think we're all right. But now I said UCS, and I've got all these different options, one of which is, you see that letter E for entity right here? That means match an entity's rotation. So if I choose that entity, and if I choose this guy right here, blink, it says unable to use that selection, please try again. Okay, so it's not going to let me. Right, so what I'm going to do then,
Because that's in model space.
it is in model space, and that's why I was testing to see if it was going to let me. So I'm going to say, instead, I'm going to draw and say I can pick into model space and stay in paper space. And now I'm just going to move this over here to the side. This is what I'm going to use to line up with. Okay. So now if I type UCS and choose entity, and I now pick that, you see what it did?
Yeah.
And so now if I type, or if I draw that multi-leader, if you do
You
it,
just write text on a polyline though and do it the same way.
well, yeah, but then you got to keep the polyline around. You can do it that way if you'd like, or you don't have to do that. You could just draw text or just in text. And so if you pick, say, from here, no, it's going to still. All right, but yeah, so you could do that text. If you just did plain old standard text, if you chose, there's your start point, and let's make it, let's say 0.08, I'm in paper space, and the rotation angle is E. So that should be because my UCS is now lined up with that line now. And it wants to know whatever the text is. And so now there it is. Except I guess I'm 180 degrees aft. Aha. All right. So my UCS, I need to rotate about the Z axis 180 degrees. That's what I should have had. When what happened is when I picked that line, that when I exploded, or this is a polyline that I drew from here to here, when I picked it, it read its definition the opposite direction is what happened. So now, if I simply just do plain old draw text, just regular old text, standard text, if I pick this line, give it a height and a rotation of east or to the right, and I just say, this is my conservation district boundary. Enter to finish, and there it is. It's all lined up. So it thinks for the purposes of while I have this UCS set that this is my east direction.
Yeah.
So now then, when you go to do your leader, if you draw that, and let's say we do that as maybe a multi-leader with text, that's the Carlson manner. Let's see if we do that. Automatic, we'll use a horizontal tick. We can do a text prompt or even use a preset. We'll say, okay. We're going to pick the arrow location, which is going to be somewhere on this line. We'll come up to say here. And now notice where it put that little thing is it's lined up already parallel. And I'm going to call that limit of conservation district. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. Rotation. I'm sorry. I wasn't reading the prompts. All right. So E for east and all right. Here, let's do this this time. Leader. Instead of rotation pick angle, I'm just going to say horizontal. That's what I should have done. Sorry. I was thinking it was behaving that way and I kept messing up the prompt. So I'm going to go from there. We'll go up even at this different angle, but you see it's already got that done. So the beginning point to the next leader, enter to end. And now the text, limit of conservation district. All right. Don't know why that jumped off the screen. We'll try it one more time. Multi-leader, automatic, horizontal, M text, horizontal tick, 08, go. From here up to here. Now, why is it not?
Looks like the prompt down in the, looks like it's expecting you to type the text down there.
Yeah, I see that and I can't, but I can't get to it. Yeah, and all of that's fine.
Well, that's okay. I've got one more thing I need to try to accomplish today.
All right.
while we've still got a little time left. And that is a legend. I need to create a legend for this whole drawing. And the legend that I have in there doesn't fit. I mean, it's not,
Doesn't apply.
it doesn't apply.
Yeah,
Some of it applies,
right.
but once you showed me how to create a legend for a specific drawing,
Uh-huh.
is there, can you show
Yeah,
me that again?
sure. So let's do this over in model space. So that we can have it, you know, match up our scaling and things like that. So. And we're just going to be working off to the side here a little bit. We've got everything like we need it. So let's go to that command. I would go ahead and switch your layer to a legend layer or something like that.
Oh yeah, before we finish, show me how to eliminate all those location and set
Okay.
layers again.
As long as they're not in use, we can do that. Yep.
Well,
And
some
you
of
can,
them may be in use.
well, if you, yeah, all right, we'll show you when we get to it. But all right, so now you're on legend.
And annotate,
Yep. And
draw
then
legend.
on legend. And if you do, yeah, you see right now you have a file. Now you see where it's coming from is it's coming from this Elmwood Carlson. Is this the drawing? Yeah, we're in Elmwood. So looking there,
Right.
and you have a legend file in there. You see where it says legend.lgd. So
Yeah.
that's fine. Now you could have, if you pull down that folder list and you look in, you see up there where it says folder, top line, and pull that
There.
down. Yeah, pull it down. If you choose your Carlson settings, which I don't see in this list of previous, so you can navigate out and maybe find them. If you had one that was stored universally because all your drawings had exactly the same line work and stuff like that, you could use it that way and load it up and reuse it back and forth. So we don't really have that. So let's just let's make us a new one at this point, and and we need to give it a name. So let's call this one Elmwood Legend.
I spelled legend, E-N-D.
Indeed, there you go. Yep. And now just say open, and now it's ready to go. Okay, so right now there's nothing in it. So we need to, looking at our buttons, we see we can add things, we can edit things, we can remove, we can add from the drawing, which is exactly what you want. So add from the drawing, and it wants you to select the things you want to use. Now you could say just type all or do a window crossing around everything and do everything that it finds, it's going to potentially put in there. Okay. And then you can turn them on and off at that. Or if you knew specifically, I want this, 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 and this, and you can pick those. Okay.
Well, I want just about everything that's in there, actually.
Then the quickest and easiest is to go ahead and just select everything or type the word all and hit enter either way. Okay. And now hit enter to finish your selection. And so it's now found everything that it thinks can potentially be used as something in the legend. And you can see on the left-hand side is its name, and the type column tells you what it is. The description column tells you what it's going to write in the legend. Okay. And then the include column tells you yes and no to include. So you can, over there where the name is, you don't want to change those things, but you do want to maybe change the descriptions. So you can look at first, I would suggest to, if you click on the headings of the columns, if you click on the type heading up there where the word says type, click that. I think that will sort it. Go ahead. No, right there. Click.
I am clicking. Nothing's
Oh, so
happening.
it's not, so it doesn't allow us to sort by that type. Okay. I was gonna say it's easier just to go through and work on line types first and then hatches and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to say choose
Okay, this would be a new boundary. The continuous line is a new boundary.
that's fine.
So I
So
hit edit.
yep, or you can double click the line. We'll also do the same thing. And you see right in there. Yep. Okay.
And then this one would be existing boundary.
Yep.
Okay, and access easement. Now I've got a couple of access easements here. I've got the hatch, which is what I'd want. I guess I want both of them.
Yeah. So now, and a lot of this stuff, sometimes, we're going to have to do a little tweaking once we're finishing things up. So I would leave them both on there. It's going to make a little hatch for you, but then we're going to also we want to put the boundary around it as well. So go ahead and leave that and call it whatever you want it to call. If you're going to, if that's what your legend says it is an access easement, then leave it to say access easement.
Yeah, that's
And then
what
I
it's.
would go down and find, you see the line that are 2 lines below where you are now. Select that access easement and hit you see the buttons down below that say move up, move down. I would move that up. And then one more time. And one more time, I'd put it up over the hatch. Okay, now, and I would do the same type of thing with the boundary. You've got the new boundary way up there at the top. You've got the existing boundary down below it. So I would either move that one up or move the other one down, that kind of stuff. All right. And, and so you can order those in any way you see fit. Some people like to show existing features first and then proposed features. It's all entirely whatever you think. Okay. But now also change things like the word septic. Maybe you want to make that, limits of septic field or
Septic reserve is what I want to call it.
there you go. Okay.
This would be a well singular. Be a well site.
Okay. And then now you see where you've got what you got those line types. There's new boundary, existing boundary, access easement is a line type and a hatch. And then you've got an SPT4W, which is that's that symbol with the wipeout behind it. And its description says boundary. So that's going to be your what 5/8 inch iron pin set or whatever that's supposed to be. Yeah.
That one.
Uh-huh.
Is that solid? That isn't solid. So that's just as indicated. So actually, I don't want to show that because I've got them labeled.
That's a symbol. That's the circle with the wipeout behind it.
Yes. So everyone that's on there, I've got labeled as to what it is, so I don't need to show it in the legend.
Okay, then you want to just turn it off. There you go. Or you could have even deleted it either way, but this way, if you just turn it off, you can turn it back on later if you want to. Okay. And so now you've got the adjoiner line. So if you had any line type, you've got line types on the layer for adjoiner. So is that the adjoiner boundary or
yeah, it's adjoiner's fine.
okay.
Well,
It's up it's entirely up to you. It's and you can change it at any point, so it's no problem.
then and this is the same thing that I want to turn off, right?
Correct. And that one happened to have been annotative, whereas the other one wasn't, but so
Right.
yeah. And there's your conservation easement. And again, did you want that in the legend? Since you have it called out, it's up to you.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Septic reserve, well site.
Now, yeah, and then
That's
where,
solid.
yeah,
That's a SHEPP rebar.
yeah, where you start there, below where it says well site boundary, septic mark, boundary mark, boundary mark. If you look at the type, those are all the symbols. So at that point, that's going to be your SHEPP solid. And if you don't have them called out and you want them identified, then change its description.
That should be set.
Okay.
Now, what I'm not seeing here and what I have in my drawing, I don't know if I can, yeah, you see those are perk sites,
Okay.
and I'm not seeing them here.
Well,
They, they must be there somewhere. They're just not.
it is. You see where it says septic mark? Right below the line that you're on.
Yes.
There it is.
Okay, so that would be a perk site.
Okay. Yep. And then the SPT 9, the one underneath that, this is boundary mark, the SPT 9 NO. That's like point number 31 that you had a little like a point online.
Okay, so I don't want to show that.
Well, yeah, correct. And you've got another one now, whatever SPT 10 is, boundary mark. And if you don't know what SPT 10 is by name, just double click it and it'll show you the picture. So that's an X, whereas the other one was a plus.
Okay, I don't need to show it.
Yeah, so that one you'll also turn off. And now the next one was your grid, and that's the coordinate grid that you've got.
I do want to show that.
Yeah, but keep in mind, you've got it already drawn out and shown the way it's supposed to be in the paper space side. So you could choose that yes or no, but I mean, go ahead and leave it on if you'd like, whatever we called it. I don't remember, coordinate grid or something. Anyway, go ahead and change its description now. You don't want to just say grid. You want to call it something else, coordinate grid or northern,
How about that?
Yeah, that should work. Okay. And looks like we're okay with that. I would hit the save button here for a minute. All right, so it's now saved that. And is there anything else we need to do? No. Oh, there's your sort button. I see it's one of the buttons. So you could, well, that's going to have, yeah, if you go ahead and choose it and you can see what it's going to ask is you can ask, it says sort, and it puts the hatch above the line types above the symbols. So if you click it one more time, does it just keep shuffling that hatch line type? No, let's see. HLS, sorry, if you type, I don't know why I don't see any means for you to choose the order in which it draws. Now, if you want to put your line types below your symbols, like maybe you want the points to show before the lines show. If
Right.
you click, say, that first symbol, the SPTW4 or SPT4W, click that. Now shift click the bottom one, SPT41 ANO.
Do
If you
what now? Shift?
hold the shift key down and go down to the bottom and click the last one. Now let it up and now go to the move up button and move it all the way up to the tippy top. And it might or might not, it looks like it's going to ignore the group. I was hoping it would grab them all. So it's only going to do the one group. So, yeah, so if we just, oops, not that. All right, so that's now the rebar, the set rebar SHEPP cap is first. This one, I'm going to move it up, even though it's not going to be drawn. I'm just going to keep it. I'll keep all the no's up there at the top.
Okay.
There's another one. There we go. And now take this one. Yeah, see, I was hoping I could grab them all and just move them up, but apparently not. Whoops, let's see, move up. What is this? Is our perk site. So I want it to be under the set. Okay.
Okay, there's another no there. You want to move it up. Conservation easement, no.
That was this one. There we go. Well, that's a line type. I'm just doing symbols right now.
Oh, okay.
So the boundary mark. That's that little plus, and the other one's the X. And now you do realize there's nothing that there's nothing that means you have to do this. So, all right, so I've got the set point, I've got the perk site, I've got the well site. That's all the points that I'm using. I've got my access easement line work above the hatch. Now we're going to combine those once we go into the drawing with it. And then we've got this conservation easement, which is a no. And I'll just put it, I'm going to move it all the way down just to get out of our way. And now we see those are there. So we'll save that. All right, now I'll let you drive this thing and we're going to choose draw. And now here's what's going to happen. It's going to ask you a bunch of things. So it wants to know the text size scalar and the symbol size scalar. So if you wanted them to be, a little larger than the rest of your stuff, you could change them or whatever. Or if you want them to match, I would just make those match what are in your drawing, which are 0.08 and 0.08. And your hatch size scalar, now your hatch happens to be solid, so it doesn't matter. You can just leave it as 1. Line size scalar would be 1, same as we've typically done. A gap factor, now that's a multiplier of how big to make the gap in the line styles. I would just leave that at 1, and we could change it later if we found we needed to or whatever. Layer name is fine for legend. It's going to go there. And then the style name is the style that the text is going to use. That's typically good unless you had one separately created for layers that you could choose. And now, if you remember when you were doing the edits, you would change the description. And there was a line underneath it that said second description. That just lets you create a second line of description and whether or not you wanted to draw. So we're not going to draw them. We didn't have any of those, but we will draw the legend title and underline it. And the name, that title is just going to be legend. That would be fine. And the size scalar right now would become 0.165. That's probably a wee bit big. I mean, I would make it like maybe 0.125, just so that the word legend doesn't stick out huge. And then title, line 1 and line 2, you could put things like, and you don't have to put anything, but if you did, you could put things like symbols used in this drawing, or, you know, something like that. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to draw a header. We're not going to draw grid lines, and we're going to make things left justified. And then there's right symbol, and that's just a matter of, you know, which, you know, to the left or the right, does it line up the symbols and the words? So left justified text is going to be best for us. I'm not sure what the right symbol does. It, I think, pulls the symbols over to beside the text, but we'll just see what it does without and then move it if we need to. So let's choose OK and then follow the prompts on the screen. And it wants to know an upper left point for the legend. There you go. All right. And now you can exit that dialog. And let's see what we got. Okay. So see, I think right symbol, I think would have pulled those symbols over to the right. But now now that this is done, we're going to dress this up a little bit. So if we first do this, I'm going to select these symbols and I'm going to move them over to the right. So I'm going to select those and I'm going to right click and choose move. And I'm going to give it a point here and I'm going to go to the right, but now I don't want to, you know, I want it to go perpendicular. You know, I want it to go orthogonally. I don't want to slide it. So I'm holding down the shift key and I'm clicking over here. So I wanted to make sure I moved that over next to the words. I'm going to do the same thing here with these words. And
at what point do you push the shift key?
All right, I'll let you do that with the legend here. So we're going to move this one. So right click, choose move. Okay. Now it wants to know a base point. So just go off to the side somewhere so you're not in risk of snapping anything. So click over there. And now just move the mouse. It's asking for a second point. Now just start wiggling the mouse a little bit and go up and down. So it's not locked, but now at this point, hold the shift key down. And now you see it's moving and it's locked.
Yeah.
And so now I wouldn't take it too far left, but just enough, keep going a little bit further. So it's just slightly left of the things below it. There you go. Click. Now, okay, undo that. Undo. Well, or you, yeah, do that and then move it up. Now hold the shift key down if you want, and it'll lock it to vertical. And then when you're there, click the left button on the mouse. And now you can let everything out. So now you notice it's made this huge patch for the access easement. That's not really indicative of what that access easement should look like.
Right.
So we're going to change that. So let's select it. And then notice there's two things. Now see, there's a hatch and a polyline.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't know if it would actually create the polyline. So we're going to use that polyline. But not yet. We'll press escape for now. And you see the line above it? That's the one we're going to match that other one with. So for right now, though, just so that we can keep track of it, go ahead and now select the edge of the hatch and grab the polyline and go over in its properties. And up at the top where it says color and layer and line type and all that kind of stuff, pull that color down and choose red. And I'm just doing this to give us a visual reminder. Now the line weight, come down a few lines. pull that down and choose, you know, like 0.5 or point. Yeah, keep making a big fat one. There you go. Like that. And now over in the drawing, right click and choose draw order, and bring it to the front. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do with this is we're going to just keep that there so we can be reminded that we have it. Otherwise, it's the same color as the hatch and we'll forget about seeing it. Now, let's go ahead and click in the gray part of the hatch so that we select it. And we're going to slide the bottom grip right there. We're going to click that and we're going to go upward and push it up, and you can hold the shift key down just like you did on the move. And right about there, that should be fine. And click. Okay. So now you're going to do the same thing. Go ahead and leave. Yeah. Or okay. Go and grab that and drag that up and hold the shift key down and then go up toward and get it at the grip. In fact, it might be easier. Press escape for a sec. And go ahead and you've got it selected, but also select the hatch. Let the shift key up if you're still holding it. There you go. Now that both grips are up, just grab grip and you don't have to hold the shift key down. Just grip it and then go up there till it snaps into that grip. See? And now click. There you go. Now press escape. And now there's also, I don't know why it made a secondary hatch, but you can select that one and just throw it away. All right, now we want to match the red line that we had. We want it to match the dashed line of the access easement. So we're going to just do a match properties, just like we typically do. Okay. Nope. Press escape. You missed it when you picked it. There you go. And so it started doing a window selection. All right, so click that. And then now, well, you don't have to get, yeah, there you go. And click and choose the polyline. Okay. Now I'd select your hatch and do a draw order on it. Make sure it goes to the back. Okay. And now that word and the line above all of that, see where it says access easement and the dash line up above?
Yeah.
You can select both of those and get rid of them. We don't need them because we're going to let the, so we're going to now move that word up. So we're going to select it and just grab you can do it that way. Just do a move and then we're going to move from there and hold the shift key and go up to sort of, we get centered around the middle of it. Nope, right in there. Yeah, keep middle. Well, all right. So that's fine. Now, what we want to sort of do is, let's see about if we move these, and I'm just at this point just sort of eyeballing it. It's just a little bit too far down, but I don't want to jam up on the points either. So I'm going to get it about like that. And then I'm going to take these other ones and I'm going to move them up to where they're also sort of like evenly spaced below it. Okay. So now, if you look at the scaling and things like that, so you might have to, at this point, do some matching. So you see where it says, now it looks like the septic reserve matched okay. But the new boundary, it's a continuous line, but you see it's a different thing. So you want to match just like you would normally do in a drawing and go over and picture. There you go, like that to that. And then choose your new boundary in the legend. Enter. What did it not?
Let me try again.
All right, and then that one there. Oh, there you go. All right. So the same thing. It looks like the grid, and now the existing boundary needs to be meshed, it looks like. Okay, now hit enter for that, and you're done with that. But a couple of things that we have going on. One of, and we'll fix that in just a second. But if you look at back over on our final plat, you see how we have this mapping coordinate grid tick?
Yes.
That's really, you know, well done with what we needed to actually look like. So
Right.
it's there, and yet we have in our model space, we have this, okay, because
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So let's maybe take this one out and we'll use that other one that's already over there. Now, if we didn't
Okay.
have that other one, we would, you know, we wouldn't be taking that out. So now I'm going to move this up. Now here's a little trick about how to set these things to be evenly distributed. So if, in fact, I'll let you do this here. If you select those bottom two items, and then you're going to right click and move, and you're going to move it by snapping from the end point of the line. Okay. And you're going to go up and point to the end point of the line on the line that says a joiner. You're going to click that end point. Keep going up right there and let it snap. Click. And now they're over top of each other. Now, here's how we set it to make it exactly match. We're going to choose move again, either right click move or from the column, either way, or the toolbar. So move, it wants to know what to move. We're going to type P for previous. Okay, we're finished selecting, so we hit enter. And now it wants to know from where, or base point to move point. So you're going to go to the line above where it says new boundary, click that endpoint, and now go down to the line below where it says right there, and we click that one. And now you see it's exactly the same space below a joiner as a joiner is below new boundary.
Yeah.
So I do that quite often to set those to those other things. Now, we see that the existing boundary line pattern does not show up because the line's not long enough. And there's two ways to fix that. One is we change its line type scale, but then it's not going to match what's showing in the drawing exactly. The other way is to make the line longer. So if you select that, and we're going to extend that line to the left. So we're going to grab the arrowhead. Here's a little trick. Because it's a line and not a polyline, if you grab the arrowhead, it's going to extend the line and not change its direction. So you don't have to worry about holding it down, you know, you don't have to worry about locking it to be orthogonal. So now just drag it to the left. And I would, you know, zoom out a little bit so you can see more of the screen and now, yeah, keep going to the left. Keep going right in there maybe, because you want to make it at least, you want to get it over here. Let's make it, I don't know if this pattern is going to show up at it. All right, there you see can you see the gap?
Yeah.
So the pattern shows up at some point. It's definitely shows up there. Maybe that's where you would have to make it. So your legend would have to be that long to match that, to get that pattern to show up in the line
Okay.
type itself. So that's, you know, that's really kind of long. So what I would suggest is
Change the pattern.
yeah, well, we would set that, and let's change its line type scale. Let's make it individually half that scale. And now we should be able to put this back. I don't know that we're going to be able to keep it the same size. We are going to have to go out a little bit. So it'll have to be sort of hard to see when these will. Right there. See how that gap appears right there. All right, so that's the size we need at that size. Now, that's half the line scale. I would come over here now and also select these in the drawing that are of that same um, the ones that use that same symbology. That's what I'm trying to say. And change them now to also be that. And of course, we'll have to make sure that they're going to work. That's change that to no, so we get the corner back. And all right, so I think that should work. Let's make sure it's not making it too small over here. I think it's okay. And so now, whereas you don't want one of these lines to be sticking out beyond the others. So I would take these and make them all match the same length. So I'm going to, because I'm grabbing that arrow, now I'm going to go down here and hover over that endpoint. And you see, it didn't change the direction. It just, the line, the same size. So I'm going to let you change those remaining two. Not the grip. The grip will change the direction, change the arrow. There you go. And now point to that right there. Perfect. Now go up and get the septic reserve, grab its arrowhead, and now there you go. Now remember, that will not happen on polylines. Polylines will only give you grips, and you have to hold, hold the shift key and all that kind of stuff. Now, septic reserve, if you notice too, is a pretty big size dash pattern.
Yeah.
But that may be your intent. Scroll back out and look at it over on the map side, and you can see that dash pattern is still pretty big. But you also, you don't want it to be confused with the setback either. So, you could choose to make a slightly different, like maybe make it 0.75 as a line type scale. But I would select it and your legend line at the same time and play around with a couple of line type scales. Right there where it says 1, yeah, make it like 0.75. And let's see if that keeps it sufficiently different from the other. Okay, so that looks good. Press escape. That looks a little bigger. I would maybe look at your setback limit line. That is not in the legend, but it's there. And I'd make it a little bit smaller too. So I would.
Wonder how come that's not in the legend?
Because you had it called out. Remember you?
Where do I have it called out?
I thought you said it was called out. Maybe it's. Don't know.
No, it isn't called out.
Okay, that wasn't our conservation limit, obviously.
Right.
It was, now that's on, what is that? That's on setback limit. This one's on setback limit. So those should all be there. I don't know what. So here's what you can do. You can either just copy that and add it over here individually, or let's go back to our legend. And see if we can figure out why. So let's load this up and see. We don't have any. And that should have been, let's see, what is its line? That is by layer on setback limit, which is this $0 dashed 2. So that should have shown up. There it is right there. And it says access easement. That's it. Okay. Do you remember when we had it? It was there. Remember, and I told you we didn't need that other one up there because it said access easement.
Yeah,
That should not have said access easement. That should have said setback limit. Okay, so here's what we'll do is we'll take these items and we'll move them down just from one endpoint to the other so we have enough room. And then we're going to copy this from one endpoint up to one endpoint. And we're going to change the word because the reason I'm doing it here is just that it's quicker and easier than going back to redraw from the legend file.
right.
Because we verified that the legend file already had it in it, but we inadvertently took it out and should not have. So that's going to be called setback limit, except I'm going to spell limit correctly. There we go. And now we need that line to match. So we're going to match. Now we also had that, we had the line in there to match there. Okay. And you could change all of the, see, when we generate all of these things, these are all placed on the layer called legend, but when we do this matching, it's changing the layers.
Yeah.
To match those certain things. And so now this one is on layer, see, it's still on layer legend, but it's matching that line style. This one is now though on layer boundary so that it can use a line style of, well, it's a line type says continuous, so that's okay. This one says a line type of by layer. So if we put that back on legend, it's going to look like this, you know, whatever legend is defined. All right. So now we've got a couple of things.
Let me ask you a question here.
Yeah.
Since we've moved all of those line types to the left a little bit, do we
Yep.
need to move the legend,
Yes.
the
So,
word legend, and those
yes.
two lines to the left as well?
Absolutely. That's what we're getting ready to do next. So go ahead and do those. So just do a crossing toward the left and move that. Nope, 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 nope. Right click, move. And just click out in space somewhere and then hold the shift key and drag to the left and keep going to the left, keep going. You want to go a little bit further beyond the left than the lines are, like right in there somewhere. Okay, click. And now if you want the lines that are underneath the word legend to extend further to the right, click those and drag those arrowheads over farther to the right. And you'll have to do them individually, but keep going over to wherever you want them to end. Right. Now grab the other one and snap to the end point of the line above it. There you go. Okay. And now one last thing that you would maybe want to do is to we're going to move this out toward the left. We have to do those individually. So we're going to click once on get the polyline, and we're going to take that over, and I'm going to hold the shift key And oh, it won't let me go. I'll just do it to where it's close. Now, leave it selected so I can go grip to grip. So grip to grip. Except it's not letting me do, I have to do a shift midpoint. Okay. There we go. And I'll double click, making sure that always stays on the in the back. And let's see, you've got that polyline. All right, so it's dashed and its color is going to be white, I think. All right, so you've got, oh, let's see. Let me see here. We're sort of getting these dashes mixed up. I've got this polyline. I want to actually be like the line that's around here because it's a bigger dash. So let's do that. Let's match that polyline from access easement. That's what will make that polyline. So now when I look at that polyline, yep, it's got the color, the line type scale, yep, that's good. Now, whew, sorry, Mike. All right, so the setback limits are a smaller dash than the access easement, so that part's good. But you might want it a little bit because this septic reserve is also a dashed pattern. And remember, when we're over here, we don't see the color. All right.
Right.
You could see a different weight, and that might be sufficient. You just want to make sure that they're, sufficiently different. So I might take this setback limit.
I just noticed something else that's missing.
Okay.
That the 6-foot inspection hole here.
All right. Well, that's because that's not a symbol, is it? See, that's a line and an arc and a line and an arc.
Right.
So if you want that to be shown, you would have to, that either needs to be made into a symbol, a block, or you would have to draw it and get over there. So we would have to say, copy that. We're going to go from there and let's put it right up here for just a moment. We'll fix that in just a second. But let's finish these setbacks. So I'm going to match this. I want to match that. All right, so that should be on that layer setback. It is. And if I select similar, oh, it's because it's a line. Duh. Okay. So if I select this, select similar. It's on my setbacks, and I'll set this. And let's change that scale to say 0.75. So that's sufficiently smaller than the septic reserve. I think that will be good. Everything's matching up there. Now, to make this into a symbol that we're going to see, we're going to take, first of all, we're going to select all of this and move it down to give us enough room to put something in there. So we will move, and I'm just here in space. I'm going to click, I'm going to hold the shift key down, and I'll just drag it down here to the side. And I'm going to take these two guys and I'm going to copy them. And I'm going to copy them from the insertion point. So shift, if I can find insertion point. So the insertion point of this text above, and I'm going to move it to the insertion point of this text below. So now I have a copy of that line below it the same distance as it is from the other side. So I'm now going to select this and get rid of it. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it and just sort of arbitrarily make sure it's going to see I'm at an angle because I don't want to turn that and try to make it exact, but I'm visually under these and the same distance away from the words. And
Right.
now we need to change that. So what is that? An inspection port?
Inspection pit.
Inspection pit or pit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So now there's that. We're done with, and we can now move all of this stuff back up. And we'll just go to eyeball this because if we try to make that the same distance down below inspection pit, the corner of our hatch would run into a symbol. Errol, I'm going to have to call you back. Okay. So, all right, so there's basically all of that. Let's save our drawing here. And we'll also come back over to here and realize that we've got a couple of things that we want to keep, or maybe just this one thing that we want to keep, this mapping coordinate grid tick. So we'll keep that, that we want to use in our legend. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. So right now, if I look at these things over here, I see they are all in paper space. Okay. So we can do that same thing as we can recreate that legend and put it over here into paper space, or we can make a new viewport and look into the model space and keep it there. So what I'm going to suggest we do, and the reason I had you do this in model space was so that it could match up all the scaling with the lines and do all that stuff and get that done correctly here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and make a viewport to choose this and place it on our sheet. And then we're going to do a change space to get it out of that viewport into our paper space, and we'll get rid of the viewport. So all we're going to do is make this viewport, and we'll set the viewport to be the same scale as this one, which is whatever that one is, probably 1 inch equals 80 feet. Okay. So, so for right now, I'm going to take this and we're going to move it off to the side. So that we can see if there's anything that we might want to borrow if we need to from the last time. But anyway, it's there. And so now we're going to need to make that viewport into the legend. So let's go ahead and we're going to draw a viewport, but we're going to put it on a layer called viewports. So if you go to the view menu and choose viewports, which is about midway down the upper, there you go, create model view. Okay. And you want to give it a corner. So I would say go down there to the, down in there, maybe right click, and now go up to the upper right and keep going up a little further, and maybe a little further to the right even. And that should do. So click there, and now it's done. It's a viewport and it's set to zoom extents. That's all well and good and fine, but select the viewport and change its layer. And you want to put it on a layer that's, you know, viewports or whatever, viewport, something viewports. There you go. Okay, now press this, or while it's still selected, now go to its standard scale. Right there where it says custom, or see if you can pull down that, see if you can find that 1 inch equals 80 or a 1 to 80. All right, let's keep going down. Looks like there it is. All right.
Unlock it. No, don't unlock it.
Yeah, but it didn't. Why didn't this work? All right, it didn't set it. So now you've got it at the right scale, but we gotta go find it. So let me. It's right in here. So I'm basically, I just blew up your scaling just so that I could get it centered where I wanted it to be. And now I'll go back and reset that standard scale while it's centered. And I'll put it down here at 1 inch equals 80. All right, so there now will match. And I can, I'm just going to leave it just like it is there. And that would be.
Are you gonna lock it?
Sufficient. Well, we can. There's no real need because we're going to get rid of it here in just a second.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, so there it is. And now if I were to say, you know, see that circle, where's my well? Up here's my well. See that? Well, that's heavy. Wells. Let's make wells a little less of a line weight. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Now it's just by default. Let's make it. There we go. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll need to set, actually, that one is solid. It's supposed to be. So we'll make this one a line weight. Now, the reason it did not change is because it's on a layer called legend and not, oh, except I got to be inside this viewport. So it's on layer legend and not wells. Now this one reacted. This one did not. Why? Why? Because it's a block. That's why. Line weight. Let's put that on. If that's a block, isn't this a block? The group wells. Line weight is by layer. Right. Line weight. Just see if I can do it this way. There. Wells, layer. Wow, I have no idea why that would not react accordingly. All right. So now everything matches here. We've got this. We might want to get back to our corners. All right, so everything's there. Matching everything over here. We're at the right scale, the line patterns, everything are all matching. But I might want to bring this back into paper space so I can choose this kind of thing to add to it.
Right.
So we want to do a change space. So I'm going to have you type CH space. And I think it'll work from where we are. All right, and hit enter. Now select the entities to copy or move, and we're going to move. So we're going to have to double click inside of there, I think. No, you know what? Escape everything. I think we have to be in the viewport first of all. There we go. Now change space. Okay, and now select the entity to copy or move. So we want to draw a crossing, or that'll work too. Click and hit enter to finish. Now set the target viewport active and press enter to continue. So just click outside of it once and hit enter. All right, so now you see it said everything was scaled by a factor of 0.0125 to maintain visual appearance, but look what happened to your text. Do you see?
Yeah.
Do you have any reason why?
No.
All right, I will tell you what, it's because that text was made with a style that was annotative. And when we did it in model space, it's going to be used to try to react to different changes in annotations. So when it scaled it by 0.0125, it took that original size, which was correct, but showing at annotation scale. So here's this word legend right here. And you see its annotation scale is set to 1:1. It has a paper text height of 0.002. Well, that doesn't need to, it needs to be that 1:1, but its text height needs to be, instead of 0.002, 0.125. That was the size that we used. Now, normally this would have been absolutely fine if we had not used annotative text, or if we had a style that was not annotative. When we scaled all this by going out of model space to paper space, it wouldn't have changed all that. So, but because we did, we just don't panic and realize, okay, we can select the text and change it back. And now we'll make that paper text height, what we expected everything to be. And we've got one thing that moved here, the setback limit, but this access easement needs to go up here because it also changed its insertion point. Now I'll put this again to the back. Now, if you look at, we brought that out of there, and so I no longer need this viewport. And I've got this sitting here as just paper space entities. But do you see this one? You see how this line is black and the shade is white? And I don't know, and yours over here is not, and I don't know if you intend for it to be or not, but you can make it that way if you want.
What do you recommend?
Uh, I don't know. If you did make it black, here's what it would look like. And the reason I wanted you to take a look at it like this is when you see it on the plat, it's going to be black, but these setbacks are gray. And maybe that's okay, but does that lend too much weight to the access easement? Because right now the setbacks are gray, and I like that because they're secondary to other things, right? It's not the main part of the property, but it's something that we want to be aware of, but they're sort of ghosted. So I like that idea. But this access easement, and I don't know, maybe it is, maybe the access easement is worthy of being black. Don't know. But in either case, it's on that layer access easement, which is defined as being that color. So let's try it here. Access easement. We'll make it at least in paper space. Let's make it. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? I kind of like it.
Yeah.
And now here's another thing you might want to do as well. Is that right now this is a boundary that it's bounded and it comes around here. So you've got a space right through here that's doubled up.
Yeah.
In terms of you got this access easement line is underneath this property line.
Right.
So you could
delete that segment.
Least segment, yeah, exactly right. So that it's not, and let's see if there's any others. I think so those two out there, this bottom one and that end are the ones that are done. Now, an easy way to do that, and I'll talk you through it, but the easy way to do that is let's isolate that one thing. And I wouldn't necessarily, or you might be able to do it with isolate layer. That's probably going to work. But if it didn't, remember, you can also show hide by selection as well. But let's choose isolate layer and then pick the thing there. There you go. Do we need to be inside? Yeah, we do. Escape. We need to be inside the viewport. There you go. Now, isolate your layer and pick the polyline, in which case and that's fine. And the hatch will also stay there, but that's okay. So now what command would you use? Perfect, perfect, perfect. Remove that segment and that segment. Missed it. There you go.
How about this one?
That one is not harming anything because it's underneath the other property line, but you might as well take it out because it's, it is redundant. There you go. And finish your command. You need to, okay. It did it. So, all right. So that looks good. I'm thinking, and let's go out, and now you're still in the model space there. Now,
move this over.
Yeah, you want to take those mapping coordinate grid tick and the coordinate values. Now, yeah, so go ahead and grab those and either move or copy them over. Move's fine because we're going to be getting rid of all that stuff over there in a minute. And at this point, because it's sitting down at a bit of a remove, you're just going to sort of eyeball to get it over there. There's nothing you're going to snap or hold parallel or any of that. So yeah, there you go. And you want to scoot it over enough to where the left edge of the text looks like it lines up with the left edge of the text above it. So keep going to the right, Yeah, keep going a little bit back to the left. It looks it's too far right in there. Click. There you go. Now you can zoom in a little here and see if it's maybe, I can see that that text is too big. So I'm going to change that text. Instead of its paper text height of being 0.01, we'll make it 0.08 to match this above, see? And you can, you know, if you got real, if you wanted to really map, you know, to match it. So I'm drawing a line from the insertion point of that text vertically down. I'll select all of this and move it from the insertion point of this text to the perpendicular snap of that line. Throw the line away. You know, but that's just me being my anal retentive engineering self. And I'll now sort of tuck this away a little bit further by moving and just sort of, you know, get it over here to the side out of the way and not.
Do I need to put a box around it?
Oh yeah, that might not be bad. Let's undo that. And let's just borrow this one. And we'll just move it into place. And now I'm going to, let's line that up with this. And then we'll bump it up here this way vertically. And let's take it out. Give me another little marker here. And I want to go grab the arrowhead. And I guess I didn't need to do that. I could have grabbed that. All right, so now we're the same width. So let's take this stuff and tuck it down. Like so, and then we'll grab this and just bring it down. Sorry about that. All right, so I don't want to have too much gap on the right. Let's see, but I don't want too much on the left either. All right, so that's probably, or you know what, really maybe instead of trying to match that on the right-hand edge with the table, maybe we do it this way. So now we're at least lined up on the left and we're tucked out of the way. And now we can get rid of all this. Including that word. All right, so there's your legend. And you can see how you can borrow things from the drawing. That's as part of what we did with that draw legend command.
Right.
All right, so now these perk sites, we don't have to have any, we didn't need numbers or any of that to show up there, right? We just had
Right.
the, okay, looks perfect. Now your deed and map, your deed map and page references down here, you see they're gray.
Yeah, that's on the under layer.
Yeah, so that's, you know, you can fix it if you need, or it might intend to be gray. It's up to you. You've got the, let's make sure the Northing with the commas, no decimals. And it says N space, E space. So we have N space, commas, E. Okay, perfect. Yep. And it's lined up. All right, sir.
Okay, let's save that. Let me ask you another question. I have this on the cover sheet too, but I don't really need it, do I? Can I just take
No.
that legend off?
Yeah. Yeah, I would take that out of there. You are aware, aren't you? I've noticed a couple times when you select things, you do realize that when you select a window and move it to the left, that it's crossing. And if you move it to the right, it's enclosing. Are you aware of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just don't do it right all the time.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And we all are that way. I just want to make sure that you knew that distinction. So sometimes it's easier to select by crossing, or sometimes you can keep from selecting things that you'd have to deselect if you do it by enclosing. So there's just various ways. So, yep, all good.
Okay,
All right. Well, let's go back to your layer list and let's get rid of those excess layers.
oh, okay,
And so you can choose a particular types of ones, or you can get rid of all the ones. Now there's one to say location inset, vertical bar, and then the name of a layer. Now where that comes from is because we have xref'd a file called location inset,
right,
and it brought in all of its layers, and that's why they're in here. So if we look at, instead of up here, say we're on this all, and if we say all used layers instead of all, then we can see down here that, all right, so those are the ones, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the ones that are used, but location inset had, plenty of them that aren't used, but they're still in here. So
right,
you can do is one of two things. You can purge this drawing of all of the layers that you don't need or want, but that could have something in there that you've already, you've carried forward from something else that you may still want to use, or you can specifically get rid of those given layers. So if you go to this location inset, now I'm on this all button because if I choose all use layers and try to select and get rid of the layers, it won't let me because they're in use.
right,
Go to all. I'm going to come down here and find this location inset. These are the ones that I really don't want to have hogging up because there's so many of them. So I'm going to click on the first one, scroll down, find the last one, and shift click on it. Okay. And now that those are selected, I'm going to right click and just simply choose delete. It will say the XREF dependent layer cannot be deleted. Oh, great. It's going to go through that. All right. What if I purge? Ah, that did it. Okay. So you can purge. Apparently you can't delete. They've got some kind of hang up on using X referenced layer dependencies. All right. So there could be others. Let's look at all layers. So there could be some other any layer names that you see that have that vertical bar in there. Those are coming from any XRefs. Looks like you don't have any other ones. So you're okay. You've also got things that have like this $0 those $0 name references are when it's also coming from external files. It's picking them out of see right here's another in this $0 title block PS stamp. That's because whenever the original file got created and made and we've used as a template, and it keeps carrying that name forward because that came out of a in this case not an XREF but a a block name, I believe, which is where that PS stamp comes from. So that cleared that. Let me take a quick peek at your references here. So those are all three there. So they're good. Yep, I think that's got it.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, make sure you fix those gray text if that's your intent. If not, you're good to go. We'll save this. I will send you a link to the recording.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You are most welcome. Have yourself a lovely day.
Thank you, you too.
All right, bye.
Bye.